Good evening. Welcome to this candidates forum for the Dobbs Ferry School Board. My name is Susan Maggiato. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of the River Towns. This forum is co-sponsored by your Dobbs Ferry PTSA, and we thank them very much for their participation. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the League. The League was founded in 1920, the year the 19th Amendment was passed, giving women the right to vote. For over 100 years, the League has been a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. This forum is a good example of that effort. As I said, the League is nonpartisan. We do not support or oppose candidates or political parties, but we do work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and we seek to influence public policy through advocacy and education. Membership in the League is open to anyone 16 years of age or older. The forum will be recorded and available for later viewing tomorrow, probably. There will be links on the River Towns League website and Facebook page, and I will distribute it as well to the PTSA, and the candidates will have it, so I'm sure you'll be able to access it in some way. A word about our recording policy that all the candidates have agreed to. Only the entities authorized by the League may record or live stream this forum. Only licensed media, including TV, radio, and newspapers, are entitled by FCC regulations to air portions of the recording. Anyone else who broadcasts or streams it must do so in its entirety. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator. Sheila Burnson is a resident of Armonk and a member of the League of Women Voters of Newcastle, where she is on the board of directors, and she also serves on the board of directors of the New York State League of Women Voters. And with that introduction, I will turn the forum over to the moderator.
Good evening. I am very happy to see you, and I want to thank Susan for that kind introduction. And welcome to all out there in Zoom land. First of all, I hope that you and your families are all well. I am pleased to be here to serve as your moderator for the Dobbs Ferry Union Free School District Candidate Forum. This is the League's favorite kind of election, a contested one. I want to thank all the candidates for running for this important office, and I want to thank the audience for coming out tonight to meet your candidates. And finally, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Rivertown for hosting this event. I do not live in your district, so I'm unfamiliar with the candidates as well as the issues facing your school district. I want to go over a few details about this evening's proceedings. Tonight's candidates for the Dobbs Ferry School District, I've got the name wrong, I'm sorry, Dobbs Ferry Union Free School District are, and this is in alphabetical order, Tim Cunningham, Jacqueline Huffman, Jean Lucchese, Shannon Stringer, Antonio Treglia, and Darren Wood. They're all on your screen, and you should be able to see their names at the bottom of their picture. Please note, just a second. There are 3 open seats on the board, your Board of Education, each for a 3-year term. The school budget will be voted on at the same time as the Board of Education. All candidates have signed the video recording policy and release form of the League of Women Voters of the River Towns. No cell phone or other recording is allowed during the forum. In addition, no candidate promotional materials are allowed to be shown during the forum. Prior to this forum, the speaking order of the opening statement was chosen by lots in the presence of your moderator and the candidates right before the forum and the League host. And the order is, and this is the order of the opening statement, and the reverse order will be for the closing statement. Jacqueline Huffman, Tim Cunningham, Sharon Stringer, Darren Wood, Jean Lucchese, Antonio Treglia. That's it. Those are the 6 candidates. The closing statements will be given in the reverse order of the opening. Opening statements will be a maximum of 1 minute, which will be followed by the question and answer portion of the evening. Questions have been collected by email or electronic form prior to the start of the forum. Questions must include the name and address of the person submitting the question to ensure that the person asking the question is a resident of this district. This information will remain confidential. A committee consisting of League and PTSA members reviewed and sorted the questions, considering the relevancy to the office, topic, and redundancy. Questions of a similar nature were combined. The candidates have not seen the questions. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes maximum to respond to each question. The order in which the candidates will respond will be rotated to ensure fairness. But in all fairness, I may get mixed up once or twice, in which case I hope one of the candidates will just correct me. Response times will be strictly enforced, and the moderator may rule, that's me, as out of order any answer or statement that's of a personal nature or lacks respect or civility. The timekeeper is Lynn Levine, and you should see her on your screen. There she is. And she is going to alert the moderator and the candidates when 30 seconds of response time is left, and then when to stop. She'll hold up a stop sign. A candidate will be allowed to finish his or her sentence, and I will enforce time limits as well as rule on any answer that is of a personal or hostile nature is out of order. We ask that the candidates do not interrupt one another or the moderator during the forum. Each candidate is allowed 2 rebuttals during the Q&A period. Rebuttal time is 30 seconds. Rebuttals may be requested by the raise hand function only after the question has been answered by all candidates. Rebuttals are to be factual and address answers given by other candidates, or expand or clarify the answer given by the candidate. It is not a time to raise a new topic and should not be of a personal nature. There will be no responses to rebuttals. Closing statements. At the conclusion of the question and answering period, each candidate will have up to 1 minute for a closing statement, which will be given in the reverse order of the opening statements. During closing statements, the moderator may determine at her discretion, my discretion, whether a rebuttal is necessary in the likelihood, in the chance that there's a particularly egregious statement in one of the candidates' closing statements. I doubt this will happen, but this is just, it's out there if we need it. And we will now begin with opening statements. And I am going to ask the first question to Ms. Huffman. And this is the question. And if you need me to repeat it, any of the candidates, please just say, please repeat the question. Why are you running for the Board of Education? Pardon?
Sheila, they need to start with their 1 minute opening questions.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry.
Statements. Right.
I forgot about the opening statements. The opening statements, Ms. Huffman. You have 1 minute.
I'd like to thank everyone here tonight for having me. My name is Jacqueline Huffman. Most people who know me call me Jackie. I'm a 43-year-old mother of 2 high school students in Dobbs Ferry. I'm 3rd generation here in Dobbs Ferry, and the only candidate that has gone through the school system here, as did my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, my uncles, cousins, and now children. I've been a New York City teacher for the past 10 years where I've taught general and special education. I currently teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade self-contained ELA, and athletics is something that is extremely important to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Dobbs Ferry PTSA for organizing and hosting tonight's forum. I also want to thank all the candidates here tonight for volunteering their time to best serve our school district. My name is Tim Cunningham. I moved to Dobbs Ferry in 2015 with my wife and daughter from Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. We chose Dobbs Ferry because of its excellent school system and the all-around charm of the village. I am a graduate of Bucknell University and served 4 years as an Army officer in Germany upon my graduation. After my separation as a captain from the Army, I began my current career in the financial services industry and have been a certified financial planning professional since 2016. I'm a parent of a Dobbs Ferry High School student who started in the district as a third grader in Springhurst. And I've also coached in the Dobbs Ferry Youth Lacrosse League since 2016, coaching girls from third grade level up to the 8th grade. I hope to use my role as a parent of a current student who has attended all 3 schools, as well as my professional experience in financial services to continue to support the district's goals to best serve our students, staff, parents, and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Ms. Stringer.
Hi, everyone. I'm a 21-year resident of Dobbs Ferry and the parent of 2 sons who attended the Dobbs schools K through 12. I've been involved in this district for all 21 years through my Board of Ed role, through my children, and through the Dobbs Ferry Schools Foundation. Working on a school board is a complicated and sometimes challenging business, but it is very worthwhile to work with people with a variety of opinions, experience, and points of view, and come to consensus around an issue. During my term on the board, in addition to dealing with the pandemic, we've had to negotiate a tax certiorari settlement of unprecedented size and hire a new superintendent. We did all this while continuing the important work of overseeing a 2-year capital project, keeping the annual budget below the tax cap, and making policy changes. I have 26 years in teaching and administration in the New York City schools. Prior to that, I worked for 6 years on Wall Street. I'm an excellent candidate because I have, combined with my experience on the board, a deep passion for and knowledge of teaching and curriculum, as well as financial know-how to bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stringer. Mr. Wood.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to introduce myself as a candidate. I appreciate the level of interest from Dobbs Ferry residents in this election, and I'm excited tonight to meet the other candidates. As a teacher for 18 years in this country and abroad, I've thought a lot about learning, teaching, and schooling. I think that when schools work best, they cultivate the intrinsic joy students experience learning, inspire students to take on challenging, compelling problems, and expand students' understanding of themselves and their peers. They also acknowledge that students and their families' lives unfold in ongoing health, environmental, social, and political realities. I'm writing out of a sense of responsibility to serve our public institutions, to apply my experience as a teacher to the schools my children are fortunate to attend, and to sustain the work of the Race Matters Committee and DEI Task Force, so our schools can support the conversations our children are already having about difference. If elected, I'm hopeful we can find wonderful ways to celebrate the work the staff, teachers, and administrators have done in our district. And I'm excited to do that work if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Ms. Lucchese.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the PTSA for organizing this forum for us. I'm Jean Lucchese. I'm an attorney who has been helping children in public schools since 2006, and I'm well versed in New York education law. I'm a proud mom of high school senior twin boys who are graduating from Dobbs Ferry High School in June. I'm finishing my 8th year as a member of the Dobbs Ferry Board of Education, and I'm running for re-election because I believe that as an experienced board member, the district needs me on the board now more than ever. We are needed to continue to shepherd the progress the district has made over the years in areas like technology, capital improvements, science research, IB for all in the high school, so enhancing social emotional support for our students. And I also believe that an experienced board member, such as myself, is best positioned to help our incoming superintendent carry out the district's mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucchese. Mr. Treglia.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and of the River Towns and the PTSA for conducting this Zoom call. I believe that this is a crucial time in our district as a parent of 3 young children. I want to make sure that the incoming superintendent has the support of a balanced board and will be able to maintain its focus on educational excellence. I am an accountant and I have been one for over 18 years. I specialize in audit and taxation. Here in Dobbs Ferry, we pay a lot in taxes, and I know how to make sure our tax dollars are allocated to educational excellence, quality professional development, and also our athletic and theater clubs are properly funded. I think it is very important that an accountant is on the board to be able to properly review the budget and where our tax dollars are being spent. I can do that for you, for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I'm going to begin with our number one, Ms. Hoffman. Is going to take the first question. And I'm going to go in the same order as the opening statements. Why are you running for the Board of Education, and what would you like to accomplish if elected?
I'm running because I simply love Dobbs Ferry and everyone that's in it. One of the best things I can say, looking back over the years, that I now notice is how much diversity is here in our community. And it's a beautiful thing to see. I want to make sure that I'm an advocate for students with disabilities, considering that I have two of my own that both have IEPs. I want to introduce plans to identify dyslexia earlier within our elementary schools. It's something that's been going undiagnosed for so long, to make sure we're providing support to those students at an earlier age. Lastly, our athletic department, our increased funding, because athletics are extremely important. They help with not only self-confidence, they help students learn important skills that they need later on in life. They learn how to win, they learn how to lose. This district needs someone like me who has not only gone through the school system, my entire family has gone through the system, and that is why I'm running for the board.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
All right, so main reason I'm running for the board is I'm going to use my financial services background to help with the spending of taxpayer dollars and the building of budgets moving forward. We're moving into a tough time, I think, moving forward with increasing inflation, high taxes, and the squeezing of the middle class out of our community who can't afford these taxes. So that's my number one priority. My number two is I wanted to improve the communication with all residents of the district. Parents who don't have students in the school, and those senior residents who still give us the funding for the spending that we need to have a successful school district. I think I can help unite everyone in the district with communication, being transparent, having the information readily available, and having everyone know how the school district's doing and what we're doing to build on our successes.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Ms. Stringer, please.
Hi, everyone. My most important reason for running for the board, or re-running for the board, is that we are bringing on a new superintendent. We've been blessed with having Lisa Brady for the last 11 years, and it's going to be a big task to come on as a new superintendent. I think it's really important. I have learned so much in the last 3 years that I have been on the board. I had no idea how much there was to know. I have been on other boards, and it's not like being on a board of education. There are very specific limitations. There are rules and regulations you have to follow, which I knew from the teaching side, but I never knew from the board side. So having learned what those are, I am really eager to help as much as I can the superintendent to come into Dobbs Ferry to see what's been going on here and how much we've accomplished and how much we have to do. I agree with Tim that a lot of communication is necessary. I think right now, we've been struggling with the confines of the open meeting law and how to communicate beyond that. And I think that's something we can really work on. It's one of the things we're very excited about with the new superintendent. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Mr. Wood.
Thank you. I think there are three things that are making me want to run for the Board of Education. The first of which is that part of what I've learned during these long few years of the pandemic, which I think has given all of us a chance to reflect and think about our communities and our public institutions, is that I feel a sense of responsibility, a growing sense of responsibility to contribute more to my community. I also want to take advantage of the opportunity to bring what I've learned and have experienced as a classroom teacher for these past 18 years to support and serve the schools where my own children are learning. And lastly, I've felt inspired by the work I was part of on the Race Matters Committee and the DEI Task Force. And I want to sustain that work as it's laid out in the New York Board of Regents policies and district strategic plans. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Ms. Lucchese.
Thank you. So I'd like to be re-elected to the school board so I can continue contributing according to my experience in the areas of special education, where I'm a practicing attorney. I'm also an impartial hearing officer, where I decide disputes between families and their school districts. I also want to continue my work in policy. I parse words for a living, and this is something I've loved to do since I was maybe 5 years old. But now I really get to geek out with that on the policy committee, and I've really enjoyed getting to know the people and wordsmithing with them together on that. I want to continue to hear the voices of all of the children in our school districts, regardless of their backgrounds. And I want to continue responding to their needs that they have expressed to us, that they feel the need for their voices to be heard. And of course, I'm going to echo what Shannon said. Very important to me is to be here to support the success of the new superintendent. As part of the hiring process, we did get to know Mr. Slentz very well, and we're best positioned to come here and support him to achieve the mission that the board has set for him in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucchese. Sorry, Mr. Treglia.
So I want to be a member of the board because I am always forward thinking and looking to make sure that we are always one step ahead to be at the cutting edge of education. I am inspired to work with other members of the board and administration to implement new policies that are proven to work and have a positive track record. I would also like to bring more input from the community. As being a board member, we are the liaison to the district administration and believe there should be more transparency to the community. For example, at a board meeting a few months ago, I requested the board to release meeting agendas a little sooner, as there are a lot of documents to go through. Well, what do you know? The following meeting, they reduced the time to release the board agenda from 48 hours to 24 hours. Therefore, any controversial policies that may be up will be passed without having anybody look at it. I also believe we should extend our technology to incorporate a more robust virtual reality robotics lab with 3D printers. This is the future in education and can be incorporated into all subjects while giving students real-world experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is question 2, and we're going to start off with Mr. Cunningham. Please describe what unique experiences you are bringing to the board.
Okay, so I have one of the unique, well, not unique because we've all had it, but currently I have a daughter who's in high school. She has gone through Springhurst, the middle school, and now high school. So I've had experience with the excellent education she's received in those schools. Another experience I have, I'm a former Army officer. I've had challenges. I've worked with people much, much more diverse than the village of Dobbs Ferry. I've learned to multitask. I've learned to deal with different personalities, but most importantly, I've learned to work as a group for one singular goal. So I think that's a very unique experience that I can bring to the table and use with fellow board members, the administration, parents, and residents of the village. That is something that I feel very strongly about, that it takes all of us working together for the common goal to best support our students, which is what we are all here for right now.
Thank you. Ms. Stringer.
Yeah, well, I bring a few unique experiences to the board. I had Dobbs Ferry
You're breaking up.
and they are very different kids. Oh,
Ms. Stringer,
okay.
you're breaking up. Just, you're okay now, but you had a moment
Okay.
there.
Can I start again?
Yes,
now?
Lynn, you want to start again? Okay.
All right, sorry about that. I have two very different sons who went through Dobbs Ferry K through 12. So I saw two very different sides of the school, the theater side and the athletic side. In terms of their academic program, both of them took very different tracks. So I have a broad sort of exposure there. I have 26 years of teaching special ed. I was the technology specialist at a school in Manhattan that was a public school. And I did technology K through 12 for special ed. So I have both some robust experience with special ed and some pretty robust experience with technology. Before that, I was in mergers and acquisitions on Wall Street for 6 years. So I have delved into financials and looked at a lot of different kinds of companies and a lot of different situations. And finally, I have 3 years of board experience. And as I said before, there is a learning curve when you get on a board, and there's a learning curve in terms of getting along with the administration, getting along with your fellow board members and how things work. And so I believe I can just keep continuing the job we're doing and help the new superintendent start in a good place in Dobbs Ferry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wood.
I think I bring a range of experiences, including teaching currently at a high school, a local high school, and understanding how any school needs to be flexible and adaptive to respond to lots of different students and lots of different families with different needs and interests. I've also taught abroad, so I have a larger perspective than just teaching locally. Before I was a teacher, I worked for 2 years at a consulting firm in Philadelphia and spent most of those 2 years consulting to a major research university on its strategic planning and fundraising, which allowed me to think about education at another level too. Certainly my experience as a parent of a middle schooler, an elementary schooler, and a someday or soon to be Springhurst student who's now in nursery school, a range of different needs and interests and flexibilities required of me as a parent of those 3 kids. And personal experience too, as a college athlete, a college musician, a college student. So I really love being a student of many different things. So I bring that experience as well.
Thank you. Ms. Lucchese. Thank you. The unique experiences I bring to the board is I have been a board member for 8 years. I have served for 2 years as board president and 1 year as vice president. I've also defended kids in disciplinary actions against their school districts when I worked as an attorney for a nonprofit agency. I also have experience making difficult decisions, not only as the hearing officer in special education matters that I mentioned previously, but I'm also a trial court judge in the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Court, which, if you're not familiar with the Mashantucket Pequots, they are the tribes that own and operate Boxwoods Resort and Casinos. And I also, well, probably most importantly, I have twin boys who are very different. I have one who is gleefully a 2-year student of the IB film program in the high school, and it has changed his life for the better. Also, I have another child totally different who has became a great runner. I'm a huge track booster, and we don't have a booster club, but maybe that's something that the team that's going to still be there will take up after we leave, get a booster club together. But my son will be running as a track athlete for Cortland in the fall. So those are my unique combination of experiences that I bring to the board.
Thank you, Ms. Lucchese. Mr. Traglia.
So I was born and raised in Queens, which, as everybody knows, is the most ethically diverse urban area in the world. I was also involved in the community as part of the PTSA as the past treasurer, and my unique experiences dealing with budgets and bringing people together, working in both large and small organizations, as well as coaching also young students. So I coach people all around the river towns, and from my experience, Dobbs Ferry was one of the best group of kids that I've had.
Hmm.
So within our community, and also bringing residents' concerns to the forefront, that we currently feel that we have not had a say with everything that has been going on in the past few years. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Huffman.
So I think one of the biggest unique experiences that I bring to the board is that I am, again, third generation here in Dobbs Ferry. Not only did I go through the school systems here, my entire family has as well. My grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and now my children, and hopefully their children. I am currently a New York City teacher, where I have been for the past 10 years. I was an 8th grade ELA teacher for 9 years, where I have experience working in co-taught classrooms. In addition, I am currently now teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th grade special ed with our self-contained population. On top of that, being a New York City teacher means that we are also every day learning how to develop curriculum, bring new curriculum to our schools to meet the needs of all of our learners. I also provide PDs to our teachers, to our administration. I have presented to superintendents around new teaching practices, around new technologies that are out there in their platforms, as well as different ways to differentiate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next question, question 3, we're going to begin with Ms. Stringer. The question is, what are your thoughts on the current budget, and are there changes you would propose in spending in the future?
Hi, actually, I'm very proud of our current budget. It was a very difficult and long process because we had just we had a settlement with a condo development in town, and people were very worried about their taxes going up, and we managed to use some of the monies so that the tax increase this year for people is 0.5%, or slightly under that. Actually, it's 0.48, it seems. So we're really proud of this current budget. We work very closely with the administration to keep costs down. But the other thing we've been able to do in the last, which is a tiny little positive out of the pandemic, is we've gotten some funds from the government to expand certain programs for the next couple of years, which we will be looking at very carefully to see if they're worth continuing. So that has been a good thing. Another good thing that's happened this year is that the new governor has increased state aid, and it's on the books to be increased next year as well, for that increase to stay. So that provides us hopefully with some opportunities to advance some more programs that we're interested in doing, be they athletics or theater or academic. So we will be looking at a lot of opportunities in the year or two ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Wood.
I'm also excited to vote in favor of the budget, and there are really very few changes, if any, that I would make if I'd been part of that process. I think it addresses, in particular, some pressing personnel needs, and in doing so, it will allow the district to grow its programs in math, science, counseling, and special ed. So I would not offer really any changes at all to the budget as it currently stands.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. Ms. Lucchese.
Yes, so regarding the current budget, as a resident of the district, I do support the budget in its current formulation. What changes would I make in the future? I'll address that in a moment, but I also, about the current budget, it's important to note that it's adding 2 special education teachers in the high school, and that is a direct response to programming needs of our incoming high school kids who are in some special classes. And so we were able to do that with the budget that we approved. What changes would I make in the future? It's hard to say that, because what we do is we respond to the needs in front of us. So the administration sets out very clearly what they're looking for, and we would respond to the current financial situation and the most pressing needs in the district. And so it's hard to answer that question in the future, but we use fiduciary responsibility. I do believe in keeping our taxes as low as we possibly can. And as you know, we're somewhat constrained by the tax levy limit. However, we have always stayed below the allowable tax levy limit. And that's something that I would not change going forward. I can't see myself agreeing to a change above that limit ever. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treglia?
Thank you. As my experience has it, budgets are my forte. So I appreciate that the current budget did not exceed the max tax cap levy, therefore reducing the potential increase in real estate taxes at such a especially crucial time. I also think that there's plenty of room for improvement as well. I also see that it appears we are hiring more and more administrators, for example, a dean of discipline at Springhurst. We went all these years without one. Are our children becoming that bad? If so, then why? I think this is a reason that something that should be looked into. Or could it be due to current policies that have been implemented? We're also adding more and more counselors. More and more counselors is on top of surveys that the Bemis 2 survey and the Panorama survey. Now, both of these companies have been very controversial if anybody followed them in the past few months. And these programs, these surveys cost quite a bit of money. So the Panorama has costed the district $72.50, along with $6,000 for the Bemis, or $4 per student. Therefore, we are wasting $13,250, and most people in the district are not taking these surveys or don't agree with them. Meanwhile, parents are paying out of pocket for athletic clubs. And so this is something that should also be evaluated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Treglia. Ms. Huffman?
My thoughts on the current budget. I'm actually okay where the current budget is for this year. I think that the board did a nice job considering the times that we are in right now. One thing I would think about in terms of change with our new budget that is concerning to me. I keep hearing a big pull and push for special education, as some of the people on this call have mentioned. As I went through the new budget, I did notice that there will only be an increase of about $4,500 to the budget for special education services. I'm worried about that. Being a mother of 2 students with IEPs, it makes me think of 3 things. And these are all 3 things that I have experienced myself. And I worry that others in the district who may not have as much experience, know the questions to ask, may in fact fall into some problems with this. Number 1, how many students now are going to be denied service because of this small increase? Number 2, how many students who have current services are going to have them removed before they're ready? And lastly, how many parents are going to be manipulated to remove services because we have to fall within that budget? We have to make it up somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cunningham?
Hi, so I just want to really give the board credit for their work on the budget. These are actual committees that I sat in on as a citizen to learn more and to watch the process. So I saw how the budget went down from an increase of 2.87% down to the current 0.48%. So I don't have any issue with the current budget. What I worry about is moving forward. Couple of things that we did this year to keep the tax levy down for the residents of town, of the village, is number one, we use funds set aside for the settlement of the homes at the landing. That money won't be there in the future to plug any budget holes. Number two, we must realize that the village overall town assessment, we're going to have to make up a $41,769,200 reduction in the assessment will be spread around the rest of the village. So that's going to continue indefinitely into the future. Number three, everyone knows we have rising utility costs. We see it in our homes. I can only imagine what's going to happen in the district. I know it's already budgeted for this fiscal year, much further than we are in the fiscal year. So we're going to have to look at that in the future. So these are going to require a lot of teamwork, a lot of feedback from the community, and ways to think outside of the box. We don't want to cut any of the programs, special ed, athletics, or theater and arts in the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we're moving on to question number 4. Question number 4 is, how will you promote true civic discourse, even if others do not agree with your opinion? We're going to begin with Mr. Wood.
And I just want to note that Jean Lucchese has her hand raised before I begin responding.
Oh, thank you. I didn't see that. Thanks a lot. Ms. Lucchese, you have a rebuttal?
Yes, I would like to do that. And thank you, Darren, for
Thank you.
pointing out had my hand raised. I just want to further explain something that
You have 30 seconds.
oh, okay. Just want to further explain something that Ms. Huffman mentioned. The increase in special education services may just be a contract thing with, say, a physical therapist that we hire who's not on staff. We actually have, as I mentioned, we're adding personnel, which does cost a lot of money. We're adding personnel for high school services, and that is in a different line of the budget. That would be in the faculty line. So it's just a little misleading, the services area. Thank you.
So much. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, Ms. Stringer.
Thank you. I wanted to point out that the psychologists, the behavior intervention system, and the panorama surveys are all being paid for with CARES funds, which were specifically required to be used for student mental health and to help supplement the work that was already being done in the school. So that was required to be used for that. And we use CARES funds to the budget.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stringer, occasionally you're,
I have asked the kids to get off the internet.
yes, please.
Hopefully.
This
and
has
they
happened
have.
before.
So,
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Wood, we're going to begin with you. And the question, I'll repeat it, is how will you promote true civic discourse, even if others do not agree with your opinion?
Thank you. I really appreciate the question because it implicitly kind of validates and affirms the value of public discourse. And that's a lot, I think, of why I'm interested in running for this position. I've attended many board meetings, those with public comment, and public comment gives a lot of citizens a chance to raise questions and air concerns, but not necessarily in a way that promotes conversation or interaction that builds consensus or builds common understanding, even of positions that are different from our own. So as a Board of Ed member, I would be excited and interested to try to find or create different venues and forums to promote the kind of civic discourse that I think we want in our community, we want our students to have in their classrooms, and we want to see reflected nationally as well.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lucchese.
Thank you. So the way I would promote true civic discourse, I think the answer is different upon, depending on what forum you're talking about, where the discourse would be happening. So how would you promote civic discourse in a classroom? That would be, that's one way, and that's training the teachers how to promote respectful responses between students when they're differing viewpoints. And that's something that maybe sometimes is not innate with people. And maybe teachers don't know quite how to do that if a controversy would arise in their classroom. And we have presented a work session that shows examples of how teachers have done that in their classrooms, and it's been very successful. And I would always treat every person with respect. This is in context of a board meeting. So when someone does come to comment, they're treated like you would want to be treated. And there's a limit on the time that we speak during those meetings, and the people do respect that. Our speakers come and they respect the time limits that we set so that the board can continue with its work.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Mr. Treglia.
So I would promote public discourse. Well, first by telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I would also promote that we need to start caring for one another again. We've been in a state that we can no longer agree to disagree anymore, which we really need to come back to that state that we should promote to our kids, that we all have differing opinions. We all have different things that are going on currently, whether it be at home or in the classroom. And also, I believe a lot of it has to do with bullying. We should promote a lot more anti-bullying stuff. As I know, in my situation, my child has been bullied because of certain things that have gone on in the political state that we're currently in. And I'm a firm believer that we should really be looking out for these kids to start treating each other as human again, and not factionalizing us into different segments of population. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Treglia. Ms. Huffman.
It's apparent that we are absolutely living in a very different time. The word kindness doesn't seem to go that far anymore. I've experienced it myself, even over the past few days, when I've announced my candidacy, where I've had people, because I may have a different of opinion, publicly try to shame. I think we need to come to a point and we need to respect each other's opinion. You know, there's that old saying, we don't have to agree on everything. We can agree to disagree. And what lessons are we teaching our children by constantly being at battle? We should be open to hearing other people's opinions, because that's the only way that we grow as individuals. You know, I really believe that people right now, people listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. And once we can move to that part, that's when true growth and true change is going to happen. We need to have multiple voices, multiple opinions, so we can discuss it together to come together to a solution. Otherwise, things are going to continue to stay the same and things are not going to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, sorry, I hope I'm back. My internet dropped for a moment there.
You're back.
So yeah, I want to say I agree with what Darren and Jean was saying earlier. Civic discourse is necessary. That's, I think, what makes our country. Everyone's not going to agree together. What Darren said, you know, sometimes the format to debate isn't there. You can't do it at a board meeting. We understand public comments are, public comment, which is the new reading, is there not to be responded to, because then you would have to respond to everything. But there should be forums where the community can get together to debate with a moderator, whether it's through the administration, whether it's through the board, but somewhere to allow debate and let everyone hear each other. That is what's not wrong, but that's what is a divisive issue in this village and really all over the country right now. So I agree with there. And then, like as Jean said, it depends on who it is. You know, you have a different forum for students in the classroom. Between middle school and high school, I'm sure high school would be more into civic discourse. You have a different format there, but then you also have a different format with the adults in the village. The important thing is that we listen to each other, respect each other, and try to come to a common solution in the best interest of the entire village.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Stringer.
Yeah, I would just like to add to all these great comments that, you know, I think there's a real difference between discussion and debate. Debate is technically you want to win the argument. Discussion is listening to other people and really thinking about what they're saying and where your commonalities are, where you can start having a conversation and building a policy or a budget or figuring out what to do going forward. So I think listening is a big part of that. And as Tim said, creating forums where we can discuss some of these issues, you know, outside of the, you know, parameters that we are forced into in board meetings and as a board, you know, that we can figure out some ways to make that happen and to hear the voices, all the voices in the village. I think that, but listening is where it all starts.
Thank you. Okay. Next question is question number 5, and I start with Ms. Lucchese. As a board member, how would you remain impartial in making decisions on behalf of the whole student population? How will you separate your political party affiliation, if any, from your role as a member of the Board of Education?
So that's a pretty easy answer for me. The board is and has been, in my experience, nonpartisan. The board does not discuss politics or party in a board meeting. It's just not part of what we do. We are there to try to achieve success for all students, regardless of who they are. I have no idea what students' ideologies are or the ideologies of their family. It's completely irrelevant to me. So I got into this gig because I want to help students. I was very interested in defending and making sure their civil rights were respected, because that's what I have done in my job, and that's what's been important to me, and that's what continues to be important to me. So ideology has no place for me as a board member at the board table. It just doesn't enter into it. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treglia.
Well, for me, that's quite simple. That's what I've been asking for at the board meetings for the past year. I've been asking for no politics to be in the school. I don't want any politics. I don't want my politics. I don't want your politics. I don't believe politics should be involved in the school. Now, we do have some clubs in the school where if people want to partake, then that's where more of the debates and the talks are to be had. So for me, it should only be about education. And then there's all the other curricular activities that you have a choice to partake in those activities. And there should be groups and clubs that benefit all. And that's really my take on it, because there was also currently email circulating pitting parents against each other within the village a couple of months ago. So I don't think that's beneficial of saying there's parents out there that are against this or against that. Meanwhile, they never had a conversation with them ever in their lives. So that doesn't help to the civil discourse as well. So my belief is no politics, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Huffman.
I'm going to continue on then what Mr. Treglia said. Politics do not belong absolutely anywhere within the Board of Education. It's plain and simple. We are representing every member of this community. And in order to do that, we have to be open and willing to hear all different opinions and ideas. And the only way to do that is to keep politics out. You know, unfortunately, we live in a world today where everything has turned political. We have certain words that are now political. You know, we live in that political light. Being someone who, again, is born and raised here, I think one of the biggest things that I have here is the fact that I have a lot of old people that I've grown up with, that have been here for generations. And I also have a lot of new people that are here in the community. I have a variety of people with all different points of view, and I'm able to stay neutral. And I think that that is the biggest thing that every one of us needs to be able to bring to the board. Politics do not belong in a school. Keep them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham?
So Sheila, can you repeat the question one more
Yes.
time for everyone?
Yes.
I know the gist, but just want to hear it one more time.
That's okay. As a board member, how would you remain impartial in making decisions on behalf of the whole student population? How will you separate your political party affiliation, if any, from your role as a member of the Board of Education?
Okay, so as everyone has said, politics do not belong on the board. We represent every student, every parent, every resident, every taxpayer in this village. So there should be no personal views, no politics whatsoever on the board. As a parent, if someone brought politics on the board or the school, which it hasn't happened, but if they do, how do we know that they're not making the choices for the best benefit of the students and the staff and to ensure the success of our school district? So as everyone said, it's a pretty simple answer that politics doesn't belong on the board.
Thanks. Ms. Stringer?
Yeah, hi. I agree, obviously, with everyone else that politics does not belong on a school board. I think the school board needs, and I think we have, consistently look at the data and the facts and what are clear evidence-based policies. You know, we do not try and say that things are going to be done for the sake of this ideology or that ideology. We really need to sit down and look at what the facts are about the different things and make decisions based on that. And sometimes the decisions are hard ones because you've got to weigh, you know, you've only got so much money and you have to spend it and you have to provide certain services. So, you know, I think that is the job of the board, not some agenda or other involving politics.
Thank you. Mr. Wood?
Thank you. Well, I think we want our students to become fully engaged citizens capable of engaging in the deepest political discourse and have a robust understanding of the political history of our country. So it is a little hard to imagine how we'd keep politics entirely out of schools and also achieve that goal. But I do hear in the spirit of what some folks have said, and want to recognize that, of course, the board itself is not a political body. Its members are not politicians, nor are they political representatives. And my understanding, the board is meant to do what is in the interests of the people in town, its residents, and the people in schools, its students. The question, I think, becomes, how do we engage those constituents in the board's decision-making in a way that the board can understand what it is that the students want from their schools, what it is that the residents want from their schools as well. And that, I think, is a particularly complicated question, because it's my understanding that only about maybe 500 to 1,000 people vote in elections like this in our town. So I think finding mechanisms to solicit the opinion and point of view, to solicit the voice of the students and the residents in town as the board makes its decisions is really crucial.
Thank you. So, okay, now we move on to question 6, and we're going to start with Mr. Treglia. What is your position on the district's DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts? And what are some specific things you would like to see happen next year?
I believe Ms. Huffman is raising her hand.
Oh, sorry. Really sorry. I looked and I didn't see anything. Okay. Ms. Huffman?
I apologize for that. So I do want to just add there, one of the things that I've heard every board member or candidate, I should say, here has said that politics do not belong. I do want it to be put out there that there are people here tonight within these candidates that have openly been endorsed by the Democrats of Dobbs Ferry. It's concerning, and I say that because how can we ensure now that their political views will not be brought into the Board of Education, and we can ensure that every voice and opinion is heard? Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on again to question 6. Sorry, I didn't see that. Mr. Treglia, you are the first one up, and it's what is your position on the district's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts? And what are some specific things you would like to see happen next year?
Well, I've done a lot of research in the past year and understand that the DEI policy is to make.
You're muted, Mr. Treglia. You muted yourself. You
Sorry
want to
about
start
that.
again? Lynn, can we start again? Okay.
Sorry about that. In the past year, I've done a lot of research into the DEI policy, and from appearance, it is to make everyone feel safe and welcome, in which I wholeheartedly agree. What must be done is to avoid the narrative of our politically divided world. We do not need to redefine terms or words in order to achieve our goals. A lot of the terms feed into a narrative of confrontation, and they don't necessarily bring people on board, but rather divide the community. And as I was saying before, we need to care for one another and recognize that the good in one another, and come back to a point where we're able to agree to disagree and still remain respectful amongst all students, classmates, teachers, and neighbors. We must also be careful who we bring in as consultants and what educational materials are being introduced. I will be sure to vet and listen to any points of view, but we must also be diligent and make sure it has a basis in education. Kind of like the old Kicks commercial, kid tested, mother approved. And I will be in for any policy and advocate for any policy that meets those high standards of education.
Thank you. Ms. Huffman.
So again, I'm a New York City teacher. I work in the most diverse school system in our country. These words, diversity, equity, inclusion, have become so politicized that people have stopped listening to ideas. These are not words that are just thrown around. These are words that I live by every single day. I have the most diverse students that I am in front of every day. And being able to keep them, understand them, know them, respect them, is not just ideas I throw around. I live and breathe it every day. Maybe some things that we can do moving forward is making sure we're having outreach to other districts who have a much more array of diversity, learning from New York City teachers. We have several teachers that have commented here tonight that said that they are, New York City teacher. I know another gentleman here, Mr. Wood, he's a teacher up at the Master's School, another diverse community. We can learn from each other. But what we need to do is stop politicizing these words so that they become our everyday. It is what it means to be a good human. It is what it means to be a good teacher. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, so I support the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives that the school is doing. What the district is doing. We need to celebrate it. That's what makes Dobbs a little bit different than some of our neighboring towns. We are more diverse and we need to make everyone feel welcome. No kid should be marginalized. No kid should be felt unsafe. So I agree with the initiatives, the policies, and moving forward on this. And we can always do better. I think the biggest thing is we are going to have to always improve every single year the policies, tweak it, listen to everyone in the community, and it's the elephant in the room. It is a divisive issue in this village. And it goes back to, I think, a theme all of us are talking about is listening to each other and come to a conclusion. But at the end, every student needs to feel safe. No student should ever be marginalized. And we need to be better and give them all that support. Thank you.
Ms. Stringer.
Yes, clearly, since I voted for it, I support the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy that we have. I feel like, as everyone is saying, it has gotten ridiculously politicized. I don't think what we are currently working on is what is called a welcoming and affirming environment in the classroom. No one can learn unless they are comfortable and welcome. And it's that simple. It's good teaching. It's smart teaching. It's what we want our IB learner profile to be. We want kids to be empathetic. We want kids to understand other points of view. So this is not it is a controversial issue that shouldn't be controversial. And hopefully with more discussion and more transparency, we can help people to understand that.
Mr. Wood.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about the work the district is doing. And I think it's also worth saying too that a lot of the work the district is doing right now is just to become compliant with state standards. So I think that's really important work to support. I'm just looking at the strategic goals and district mission and vision, and the DEI work. Its purpose and its goals are to create a welcoming school environment where all students feel included, including their classroom resources, the perspectives that they learn about, equitable opportunities for engagement, advancement, and achievement, the adults they interact with each day. I think these are pretty unobjectionable goals. And I'm particularly, I think, excited to see the district continue to work on hiring teachers who are wonderful, inspiring, exciting teachers who also represent an array of identities and allow students to see themselves reflected in their teachers. I think that's really important. And also just that the district continues to respond to the needs that teachers have articulated for the kind of professional learning and support that they are seeking and learning and wanting to learn about so that they can respond to the needs of their students in their classrooms.
Thank you. Ms. Lucchese.
I do support the DEI initiatives. I was instrumental in helping to craft the DEI policy that was adopted back in June of 2021. And as we are working this year on welcoming and affirming environments and also professional development for next year, what I'd like to see is to continue with professional development, especially for our LGBTQ students. Also, because teachers have asked for resources for how to better support that population. I would get more students involved because their voices are the most important ones. They're the ones that we're striving to do this work for. I would continue to recruit highly qualified teachers from underrepresented groups and work hard to make them feel welcome in the district and in the community so that we can improve our retention of our diverse staff. So thank you.
Thank you. No hands. Yes. Oh, okay. Mr. Cunningham.
So I just want to add something real quick. I think, and I'm not speaking for every child in this village, but as you walk around the village and you see groups of kids, I think our children foster diversity, equity, inclusion very well. And sometimes the adults can look at them for an example.
Thank you. Mr. Treglia.
So I also just want to touch on one thing. I believe that any consultants that do come in or the school contracts should be fully vetted and to be made sure that they are based on education and the high standards that we have as taxpayers. because in the beginning of the year when the diversity initiative originally started, during the diversity committee meeting where one of the consultants was introduced, she said that this is coming and whoever doesn't like it should leave. And that's well
Thank you.
documented on video. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You want to unraise your hand? Okay, now we are going to question 7, and we're going to begin with Ms. Huffman. What parts of the curriculum currently prepare students to be active participants in our democracy? And is there anything you as a board member would seek to improve?
So I think back in 1998, when our IB program was first introduced, there were a lot of people who just didn't have a true understanding of what the IB program was trying to achieve. And there was a lot of people who were probably against it. Over the past few years, I've done a little bit more research into it, looked into a little more, and I think that the IB program definitely has the ideology around it, right, is pretty great. Like having hands-on learning, applying it to real world circumstances. Some things though that I would want to improve around IB is making sure that we are ensuring that, and these are a lot of questions that are coming up from members within our community, making sure that the money we're spending on these IB programs is something that is beneficial to all of our students. I will say not every college accepts these credits, and that's a fact. How many of our students are leaving Dobbs Ferry, going to college and not receiving credit for them? I think it's something we need to look into. Lastly, how do we ensure that every single student is able to access IB? My two kids, both having IEPs, in order for them to go in a full IB program, they would need to give up their ICT teachers. And I think that's something we need to change and really talk about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cunningham.
So Sheila, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. What part of the curriculum currently prepares students to be active participants in our democracy? And is there anything you as a board member would seek to improve?
Okay, so just as every board member has their strengths and weaknesses, I'm not an educator, so I'm not gonna try to dictate curriculum. What I would do is work collaboratively with the rest of the board members and the administration for any changes for the curriculum. As for their roles in democracy, I think from what I've seen through my daughter's education is just their ability to allow some free thinking, allow them the choices of various activities besides your core education so they can get the well-rounded education. But as for changes, I really would have to work with fellow members to collaborate, use their expertise, and come to a decision together if we had to make changes.
Thank you. Ms. Stringer.
Hi. Well, I know there are a couple other teachers here, so you never get it right. So you can always be better. So I think the IB program has come a long way from being a very exclusive, only for the smart kids kind of program to really moving and pushing IB for all. I agree there's some issues with the special ed. I know we're working on it. But I think it's a really nice framework that creates good citizens. It fits with our mission that we're creating curious, inquiring students who are going to research and look at the facts and look at all sides of the story before they make a decision. They're not going to just buy a party line and vote blindly. And that's the kind of people we want to raise in Dobbs Ferry. I think continuing work on making the curriculum more robust, making more opportunities for debate, more opportunities for discussion, more opportunities to in all the different areas, not just history. And I know that is something that's going on. I appreciate the work of I've been on the curriculum committee, and there's a lot of ongoing work that goes on at all levels. As a board member, it's not my job to dictate curriculum, but I can certainly support it going in certain directions and to follow the mission of the School of Dobbs Ferry. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Wood.
Yeah, thank you. I think that there are always great opportunities, I think, to make the learning that students are doing in schools feel relevant and meaningful to them. And what I heard from students when I was serving on the Race Matters and DEI, particularly the Race Matters Committee with students, was that they wanted to have chances to talk in their classes and with their teachers about what they were seeing and experiencing in the world, and felt that occasionally their teachers didn't feel authorized or qualified to have those conversations and support that kind of discourse. So just in listening to what students have articulated they have wanted, I think that's one area that we could think about understanding a little bit better and how we might respond with curriculum. And then two, I think providing students a chance to engage in the kind of political discourse and to become fully realized citizens involves them practicing that in school. So having a chance for them to talk to and engage with experts, lots of whom live in New York City, professors and historians, and all sorts of people who do this kind of work in their careers, bringing those kind of people into the classroom to have those kind of real world conversations, I think would feel really inspiring and exciting for students too.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lucchese.
Thank you. So what parts of the curriculum currently prepare our students to be active participations? I think discussion of current events happens even in Springhurst. We have the 10th graders who discuss world events in AP Global. And we have the government and economics class, which is a non-regents course, which is accessible for a wider range of students. And also at the highest level of the high school, there's the IB high level history, which is a 2-year course, which really gives the kids an opportunity to do a very deep dive into the subject. And what do I think could be improved? I think continuing the implementation of IB for all, and that's regardless of whether they are in the diploma program. So we believe that it benefits every kid to take an IB class, and if it's appropriate for a child on that child's IEP, they can get support to go into a higher level class with whatever that support might look like for them. So that's what I would say. And also be improved to sort of do a better job of demystifying the International Baccalaureate program, because I think that a lot of people in the district don't understand what it is. I certainly didn't before my children got into high school. And we could just do a better job of explaining the global nature of the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treglia. You're muted.
So I think one of the main things is to have a well-grounded education is great for democracy, and then this also empowers our students to be well informed on all aspects of topics, and this empowers them to be independent, critical thinkers. So sometimes when things don't go right, sometimes it's better to get back to the basics. Let's get back to our social studies and teaching them about the founders, which I hear a lot of people in the schools. They're no longer have that foundation in U.S. history and how great our founders were and the debate that they had to create this constitutional republic that we currently live in. And one of the greatest thing about our founders and this constitution that they created, they knew not everything was perfect, but they created a system that can change. And we've seen throughout history that a lot has changed for the better. And I think the kids need to know how great this country was, as it seems like seems like they're forgetting how great this country is. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Ms. Huffman, please.
I would just like to add that most, if not all, parents and students within this district, one of the things I'm hearing is that we want to be open to more open discussion within our classrooms. Most, if not all, parents are more than willing to have that and accept it and want it. However, what's happening is, in order for kids to be open and speak freely, they need to feel that they're supported. Often what happens, kids are afraid because they might go against what the majority is saying. And we need to make sure our teachers can leave their own biases out, their own opinions out, so that everyone can be respected. Thank you.
Can you put your hand down, please? Anyone else? Okay, we're coming up on the last question. It's 8:20. This is the final question number 8. And we're beginning with Mr. Cunningham. Dobbs Ferry has a lot of athletic talent considering the size of our district. The district and administration do not seem to place a lot of focus on funding towards the athletic department in helping foster these athletes. Would you agree with this assessment? If so, how would you work towards improving it? If you don't agree, why do you feel it is adequate? That's the athletic facilities, I believe. Yes. Mr.
Okay,
Cunningham.
so I'm not going to talk anything about the administration or the board for anything in the past. What I would say is I'm a huge supporter of the athletics in this town. I think it's something that the village is proud of in all our sports, whether it's our football team or girls volleyball team, boys and girls basketball. I'm very partial to girls lacrosse, but a robust athletic program is, I think, extremely important to the schools, and it gets the village involved. It shows pride in our students. You go to the Little League parades with the baseball and softball teams, you see crowds of people outside. It's just something that I think really can unite the community. So I fully support as keeping athletics funding. If there's something that, we should really look at, go to our fields at Springhurst. We need bathrooms there. All right. We need the bathrooms cleaned out. It's not fun having visiting teams come and this is what they see. So if I did have to change anything, again, look it into the budget, but some of our facilities around our fields really need some improvement there. But 100% support athletics for the village. In addition to theater and arts too. That's my other with my other students. So
Thank you. Ms. Stringer.
Hi, I'm very proud of our student athletes. One of my sons was in cross country, actually all through middle school and high school, and also on the wrestling team. So he benefited greatly from Dobbs Ferry's commitment to athletics. I do think we try and find room in the budget as much as we can for athletics, and we will continue to do so. We understand that this village is very passionate about our student athletes. We also want to support kids in theater and in chorus, and kids who are in these different clubs like Model UN or Yearbook. So we need to look, as board members, obviously we are looking to make everyone happy, but we have limited funds. I think athletics is a critical part for a great many of our students' self-esteem. And I think it's really important for a lot of special ed kids or kids who are not academic wizards, that it really gives them an identity and a team to play with. But I also think theater does. I also think chorus does. So I think we need to be even-handed about how we support these different things. And I welcome discussion and debate about it while we're in the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wood.
Thanks. As a former athlete and a kind of sometimes somewhat current athlete on the weekend, I also really enjoy sports and think that athletics have a place in our town and in our district. And I don't know if the premise of the question is right. I don't know if there has been any kind of change in support or funding for sports in this town. It does seem to me to be the kind of place and district where kids can come and learn to enjoy and develop and grow as athletes. I certainly have seen that with my children and friends of my children too. And I think the hope is that if that is true for the students who enjoy athletics, that should also be true for the students who enjoy art and academics and music and theater and academic competitive clubs that meet outside of school and all sorts of things. So if we are committed and excited about supporting the endeavors of our student athletes, and I hope that is true, I hope that we're equally excited about supporting the endeavors of all of our students in all of their varied and diverse interests.
Thank you. Ms. Lucchese.
Thank you. So I am very proud of our student athletes as well. I am also proud of our scholar athletes. I note that many of our track teams and cross-country teams over the year have been scholar athletes, and that's a pretty cool thing to see. The board just approved a full roster of coaches for our support for our fall teams. And we're very happy that that happened because there is a shortage of coaches throughout the county and really throughout the surrounding area. It is so important to offer athletics to give kids a chance to experience success outside the classroom. Not everybody is as engaged in classroom work every day, and maybe they're not a scholar, but they can have success on the athletic field, and it makes them feel like part of the school. It's very, very important. And I will stick to that, but I want to say that should someone want to field a team, we just need to have the right amount of kids to do that, so that we use the resources of the districts and the taxpayers appropriately. And we do fully support that. And I do too, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treglia.
Being a former Division I athlete, I believe it is fundamental to the school in order to have a robust athletic program, and it's supported within the budget as well. Being an accountant, I will make sure that the athletic programs are properly funded, and it's been disheartening to me to find out that most of the athletic clubs in the district are funded by the parents through the club's nonprofits. And I think a lot more needs to be allocated to them, because it does bring school spirits. It does keep them in good athletic shape. It is healthy for them. It's like being in their own little fraternity or sorority that cannot be replaced. And it brings you to the community, and it brings the community together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Huffman.
So I will say that many people have talked about that athletics are fully supported. And I'd like to say that that's simply not the case. The money that it goes towards athletics that is allocated within our budget simply goes towards paying our coaches' salaries, transportation. It leaves very little money left over for the actual programs themselves. We have facilities that are subpar. We've invested money that teams cannot use because we haven't done our due diligence to go up and make sure that these were the correct and appropriate facilities that we were building. We also have a lot of people who just throw things off to contractors, and there's not a lot of follow-up that happens with it, and we're not protecting investments. Our teams, we have old or non-existent equipment. Athletics is important in this community. Being someone born and raised here, I can remember as a little kid hearing the marching band, leaving Dobbs Ferry High School and running out my front door because I lived on DeVoe Street, waiting for the Dobbs Ferry football team to come running down or marching down. It is something that brings community, and it is a must. And we have to make sure that we are fully funding, not just talking about it, fully funding it. You all have sat here and said that you support athletics. I'm going to ask you to prove it and make sure that our athletics teams are fully supported, not just provided that the coach are well taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Ms. Lucchese.
Thank you. I'm gonna lower my hand. Okay, so I just want to explain what the limited resources that the school has as a whole. We have so many athletic teams, and that just grows every year, which is a great thing. So there's a wide variety of sports that our boys and our girls can participate in. So that's the great news. But because we do have such a variety, we have to be equitable in how much we pay for those sports. So it's true that, say, uniforms, jerseys are used for 3 years. And that's something that is a reality of our finances as a public school. Thanks, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
So I just want to add on to my earlier point too. I also think it's very important where we have some unique athletes such as hockey players, swimmers, golfers, bowling. I hear now we look for opportunities in other towns to allow those children to still compete in the sports they love. But since it was a question about athletics, I want to be clear. We don't want to cut programs for other things where students aren't in athletics, but they're doing theater, they're doing arts, they're doing after school activities that are not athletic related. So that's the hard work that the board would have to do to make all this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treglia.
Yes, I also want to expand on my answer before as well, that I've come to find out that there's not enough clubs and activities in the middle school program for after school. And I think this is something that should be looked at as well. And I fully support all the additional clubs, the theater club and all those other clubs for people who aren't athletes, that the school should have programs for them to remain after school and to be more involved and become better members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please, you and Mr. Cunningham, lower your hands? Okay, so now we're going to begin the ending of our program, and you're going to have, it's time for our closing statements. And it's going to be the reverse order of the opening statements. And you all have, I believe, 1 minute. So we're going to begin with Mr. Treglia. Your closing statement.
Okay. I would like to thank the moderator, along with the League of Women Voters of the River Towns and the PTSA for this opportunity. My accounting experience and being on boards and working with many organizations has honed my leadership qualities and my ability to find solutions through diligence and working as part of a diversified team. My goal is to properly vet all policies to make sure that they are beneficial to all students. I will also ensure that one of the board's objectives is to hire the most qualified teachers and that all teachers are afforded quality professional development. Although we can't please everybody 100% of the time, I will make sure residents' concerns and opinions will be always listened to. With my forward-thinking mentality, there will be no greater advocate for the students, teachers, athletic and theater clubs, and voices of my fellow community members. I will use my 18 years of accounting experience to make sure tax dollars are spent to benefit our children. I would like to wish all the other candidates good luck, and please go vote May 17th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lucchese.
Thank you. It's been my great honor to serve on the Board of Education for 8 years. It's the most worthwhile volunteer position that I've ever experienced. And if reelected, I will continue to make the success of all students my main focus, and I will bring the diligence and dedication that I've shown in as great a measure as you can imagine. And I do appreciate the support of the public, and I hope to see you again as your board member next term. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wood.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this public discussion about our schools. I also want to thank the other candidates for the time and energy they've already devoted. I feel grateful to have taken part in the district's ongoing conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. What drew me to that work in the first place is my desire to help our district support the conversations about difference that our children are already having, so they understand themselves and each other more deeply, feel both affirmed and challenged, and increase their appreciation of the human diversity they will encounter in the world. I also hope that the board and our schools can promote the kind of rigorous, constructive public discourse that overcomes a tendency to imagine that growth and progress necessarily means loss or decay. For example, I believe that learning can be joyful and rigorous, that classrooms can be nurturing and challenging, that schools can develop students, athletes, innovators, and artists, and that when students feel seen for what they do and who they are in all their multiple identities, they will feel more connected to our school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stringer.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to participate. Going forward, we will be welcoming a new superintendent to the district. It's critically important that a new superintendent has an experienced board of education to help settle into the district. It's important that we develop channels for the community to interact with the board and the superintendent outside of the limited opportunities provided by the open meeting laws. I am deeply committed to the mission of the Dobbs Ferry schools to create independent, curious, and open-minded learners who think critically, work collaboratively, act ethically, and are knowledgeable about the world around them. If I am elected, I will continue the work we have done in the last 3 years on the board, which is to create an open and welcoming environment in all our schools so that our students can become the open-minded, collaborative, and knowledgeable citizens we need for the future.
Thank
Please
you.
remember to vote on May 17th.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
Okay, so I want to say thank you again to the League of Women Voters and the Dobbs Ferry PTSA for putting this forum together tonight. And I want to thank everyone in our viewing audience who took the time to watch us tonight. And I hope it was educational for everyone. Again, I have the same goals as everyone else. We want to serve our community. We want to volunteer our time to serve on the board, to work together to ensure the success of all our students in the village. And me personally, again, I'd like to use my strengths to help with budgeting and spending forecasts, which I think there is storms on the horizon. So I really want to watch all the taxpayer dollars, but again, it's all for the benefit of all the students to ensure their success. So I want to wish everyone good luck. This was actually great tonight. Wasn't as bad as we all thought it might be. So good luck, everyone. And please go out and vote May 17th, everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Huffman.
I too would like to thank everyone who has participated here tonight. The education of our children is not a political war. The only way change happens is if we allow new ideas and opinions to enter the conversations. I want to add a new voice for the community to ensure everyone is heard. I am an educator, an advocate, a parent, and a former student of the school, and I am the missing voice on this current board. Thank you, everyone, and don't forget to go out and vote May 17th.
Thank you to all candidates. It was a terrific evening. And I also want to remind you that this evening's forum is being recorded by the League of Women Voters of the River Towns, and a copy of the link to the recording will be available tomorrow at the following sites: League of Women Voters River Towns YouTube station, League of Women Voters of the River Towns website and Facebook page, as well as on the Dobbs Ferry School District website. Please remember to vote on May 17th. I know we've said that a number of times. Do vote. Your polling place is the Dobbs Ferry High School gym at 505 Broadway. The polls are open from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. Information about absentee ballots and voting registration is available at the office of the Dobbs Ferry District Clerk. Thank you for those in our audience, and thank you for our candidates for coming down and remember to vote. That concludes this evening. And thank you to Lynn Levine for
Thank
being
you.
such an excellent timer. Good night.